Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 25 Mistakes Americans Make When They Visit Europe. So this looks like a very interesting travel video. Hopefully we're going to be learning a lot of things about, what not to do if you ever find yourself in the continent of Europe. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Walter's World, and today we're in Athens, Greece. We've got the Acropolis behind us,
Gorgeous.
the Parthenon up on top. And today I want to talk about are some of the mistakes that tourists make the first time they come to Europe, or maybe the second or third or 17th time they come here. And the first mistake I hear a lot of tourists make, and it kind of irks the locals when you are here throughout Europe, is really just the idea that you're saying that it's all Europe, like thinking Europe is all the same thing, and it's not.
No.
Everywhere you go throughout the continent, you're going to have different people, different vibes, different food, different experiences, because Portugal and Poland are totally different. Cod versus cabbage, it's just a whole different thing. And so just kind of lumping everything together isn't something you should really do. That's why it's important to explore more of Europe than just going to London or Paris or Rome or whatever. There's a lot more to see and more to explore. So don't make the mistake of thinking you're going to one place in Europe, you've seen all of Europe.
That's so interesting.
Another mistake I think people make is when they're planning the European trips, they only explore Europe, meaning Germany, France, Italy.
I like the famous
They don't
parts.
explore more. Think about getting some of the beautiful places in Eastern Europe. Tallinn, Estonia is gorgeous. Riga, Latvia, Vilnius, Lithuania. Going down to Southeast Asia, seeing Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia is just amazing. And people kind of leave that out because they think, oh no, I need to go to London, Paris, and Rome. Maybe I'll stop in Munich for Oktoberfest. No, that's a mistake. Go and explore other parts, especially if you're looking to come in summertime when it's really, really packed with tourists. By exploring some of these other parts of Europe, you really do get a whole different vibe, like I said, but also you might get a lot less tourists, so you can really enjoy the culture a lot more. No matter where you are.
I really love that piece of advice because it's true. Obviously the famous cities are obviously going to be packed with tourists because they're the famous ones. But I think there's a lot of hidden gems, and you can definitely find those. And it's probably cheaper, and not just cheaper to just your stay there or probably your travel there. It's going to be less crowded. So I do like that advice because it's you're just I don't know. It's a little unknown place. Who knows? Maybe you're going to have the trip of your life. I have no doubt, and it's going to be better, less crowded, and you're the only one with the secret.
In Europe, another mistake I see people make is using ATMs indiscriminately. Look, there are private ATMs, and there are ATMs at banks. And if you're a traveler, you should try to stick with ATMs that are in banks, because they're usually giving you a better rate. They're usually not ripping you off, let's say, because sometimes the private ones can have excessive fees, or they do what's called, we'll give you the conversion, which basically gives you a horrible exchange rate, but tells you, but we'll let you know exactly how many dollars are going to come out of your bank account. That can be a really big ripoff. I've seen 20-30% differences in exchange rates versus the official rate versus what they gave you in those private ATMs, so just be aware of that. And the thing is, if you get the offer when you're paying with a credit card, and they say, oh, you want to pay in euros or dollars, I personally always choose euros because I feel my credit card company back home gives me a better exchange rate than the conversion that the hotel and restaurant are graciously offering me, or ATM. And here's the thing, some of those hotels and restaurants, they don't know about that difference, so they're just trying to help you out by charging you in dollars. Don't do that. So always just pay in euro, okay? Don't do the conversion. Another mistake people make is they start speaking louder when people don't speak English.
It's not going to help.
People don't speak English. Speaking louder doesn't really make a difference. It just makes the situation more awkward. So just know that, hey, if not everyone will be speaking English here. Know a few words, it goes a long way. But that speaking louder part, I mean, I'm here in Athens, and honestly, when you're here, most of the tourism people do speak English. But yeah, you can tell when the people didn't speak perfect English, they just started speaking louder. Don't make that mistake when you're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another mistake that my mother would make sure I wanted to tell you is, look, don't make the mistake of thinking it's easy to find a free,
it's always a toilet,
clean, or nice toilet whenever you need to go.
Free.
Look, when you're going by your hotel, hop in to use the restroom. When you see a nice bathroom, use it, because some places you might have to pay, like in Germany and Austria, you pay to use the toilets in a lot of places when you're there. I mean, they're clean, so you don't mind, but you have that.
Yeah.
Other places, I mean, we've been in the islands of Greece, and we've been in places around Italy where it's literally like a hole in the ground that you're squatting over, like a porcelain hole. So
I've
finding
never
a
seen
great
that thing
toilet
in my
isn't
life.
always a great thing or an easy thing to
I'm
do.
shocked.
So make sure you use the services when they are nice, if you're not sure if you have to go. Now we're here in Lisbon, Portugal, and our next mistake that tourists make when they come to Europe is they think the train is the only way to get around Europe. Because, you know, for the
But it's the
longest time you
fastest,
hear
right?
about Eurail and Interrail, and I'm riding the rails through Europe.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do that, but here's the thing. If you take those cheap airlines, you can get from Paris to Berlin a lot faster than you can taking the train or going from the north of Italy to the
guess that
south
makes
of
sense.
Italy. That can save you a lot of time and give you more time to explore the city. So don't think it's the only trains. There are things you can do.
Yeah, but the downside is you get faster, but you're gonna be, you know, in a train, you really get to experience it. You get to see like the town and, you know, just like the landscape. But, you know, with the airplane, it's like, yes, I'm getting there earlier, but at what cost? Like, I'm missing out on a lot. So it depends on what kind of traveling you're doing.
To get anywhere. Airplanes can get you places as well. But I also think this is also a mistake if you only use the planes to go around. Because sometimes taking the train is actually going to be faster because you get on the train in the middle of the city, you don't have the security checks, you get on, you go to your destination, you get off, you're right in the town, so you don't have to worry about the taxi out to the airport, the getting there 2 hours early, the taxi back out, the public transportation end. You don't have that. So you want to make sure you're balancing the timing of the flight versus the train when you're getting around. Now, another embarrassing mistake I see tourists make from all over the world, they come here to Europe, and I know Europe's different everywhere you go, but they speak their own language, and they think the locals won't understand. You'd be surprised how many Europeans speak 5, 6, maybe 7 languages. I mean, I'm an American that lived in Europe, and I speak Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, English, German, French, a little bit of Lithuanian, and I can understand things. And I'll be sitting there and here in Portugal, and Lithuanians will go by, and they'll start talking about people, and I'm like, don't say that. That's not nice. So don't make the mistake of thinking people won't understand you if you're talking behind their back. That's a really big thing that happens in hostels when you're like, dude, I know you're talking about you're going to rob my backpack. Come on. So be aware of that. Another mistake people make is they only go to the big cities. I'm only going to go to Lisbon and Porto when I'm here in Portugal. I'm just going to do Berlin, Munich, Prague, and Budapest. Yes, those are all big cities. And they're all fantastic to visit. But if you want to get a little more better taste of the local culture, I recommend either throwing in some day trips. So if you're in Berlin, go to Potsdam. If you're in Munich, take a day trip and go to Nuremberg or go to Bamberg or Regensburg.
Oh my God, that looks
if you're
so
here in
nice.
Lisbon, go out to Évora and see the UNESCO World Heritage Site that is Évora. Go to Óbidos, and it's going to give you a better understanding of the culture than the big cities will. So don't just do the big cities.
It's
Don't
a
make that
different
mistake.
point of view, I think.
Even if it is just a day trip from a big city. And that's why it leads into my next mistake is people don't use public transportation not just to get around, but also to get to those day trips, because public transportation throughout Europe will make your life so much easier, and they can make what you think is a daunting ride or drive or whatever into an easy day trip. Going out to Potsdam, like I said, from Berlin. If you're in London, you can do the train and go up to Cambridge or go see Oxford or go to Canterbury, right? You can do all these things on a simple day trip. So don't pass up the public transportation, not just in town, but also just to use it for day trips to go see things. And I was talking about public transportation getting you to those day trips, but I think another public transportation thing, another transportation mistake I see people make is they don't pre-book their tickets for popular routes, okay? So if you're going to be going Venice to Rome, or you're going to be going Barcelona to Madrid, you need to book your tickets early to make sure you get a seat reservation. But also you want to book early, because if you book early, a lot of times in Europe, the tickets are sometimes half the price if you're booking early. I know we saved hundreds of euros by booking our tickets early in Italy last summer, and it saved us so much money just because I booked beforehand. And when I've been on the train, I've also seen another mistake that tourists make. A lot of times I see it as US tourists, but other tourists as well, Brazilians I've seen do this, the tourists from everywhere, is overpacking. Look, you're not going to have a lot of space when you're here, when you're in Europe, whether it's in the taxi, whether it's in the train, whether it's in your hotel.
I'm staying out of this discussion. I don't know.
Everything out. So when you're packing, don't overpack, maybe underpack, because you can buy everything here in Europe, right? You can do that. But honestly, that's a mistake I see people make. Like, they're trying to get 3 suitcases on a train in Italy. You're like, look, there's nowhere to put it. They're staying in a hostel, they're staying in a hotel.
Yeah, you have to know what you're traveling
all this room, and it's a single bed, and there's just not the room for your stuff. So overpacking can be a mistake. It also makes you more of a target to get robbed, because if you got 3 bags, I'm going to steal 1. You can't run after me with the other 2.
Oh my God.
Even at me, you couldn't catch. And going
Come on, that's like worst case scenario.
mistake of not pre-booking travel, also make the mistake of not pre-booking certain sites, because some sites book out way in advance, like the Alhambra in Granada in Spain. You got to book that thing out like weeks in advance, otherwise it sells out. I mean, if you're going to go in June and July, make sure you're booking it like in April to make sure you get a spot, because if you just show up thinking you're going to get in, you're going to be out of luck. The Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, you need to go a few days ahead and go online and book your ticket so you can get in, instead of being in that huge line or not getting in at all. Now, to continue this, let's go to another part of Portugal. So now we're here in Évora, Portugal, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the next thing I want to tell you in terms of mistakes I see American tourists make when they come to Europe is really not reading the menu before they start shoveling food in their mouth.
Okay, what would you do? How would you order?
Like Portugal and Spain, you'll notice that sometimes they'll have bread on the table, they'll have olives there, and you think, oh, back home, chips and salsa, everything's free. Well, here in Europe, sometimes those things are free, sometimes they're not. So it's important to look at the menu, and it might say, oh, the pan is €1.60. Oh, the olives are €2, or the cheese is €5. You know, these kind of things. And because I've seen tourists get really upset when they've eaten things they thought were free, and then their actual bill was a lot more than they expected because they didn't know. Okay, so don't make the mistake of just eating what's there. Make sure you check to see if it is included, and if it isn't, feel free to say, I'm good, you can take it away, and you won't have any problems. Because I also have had people that were sitting at the beer gardens in Germany, they had the baskets of pretzels there, and they start munching these big pretzels. I'm like, dude, those are like €5 each. Like, there's no sign. It doesn't matter if there's not a sign. You're gonna have to pay it, all right?
Do you think it's free? Come on.
Another mistake I see people make when they travel to Europe is they only eat kind of the national dishes of the country that they know from back home. So if you're going to Germany, oh, I'm going to have a bratwurst when I'm in Germany. Well, actually, if you're in Berlin, you should have a currywurst. And if you're in Bavaria, you should have a Weisswurst, the white sausages.
Of course,
There's different sausages you should have in different regions. Here in Portugal, having food from Alentejo is very different.
It's different,
you grew up by Porto, so you want to kind of think about that. And so sometimes it's even just appetizers. I know for me, patatas bravas are my favorite tapas to have when you go to Spain, like little things to eat. And that's all over Spain. But the thing is, if you're in Cordoba, you want to have the fried eggplant. That's the best tapas to have. But you don't know that. So make sure when you're going to restaurants, ask them, what are some of the regional dishes that are here? And what's nice is a lot of the smaller towns, they will literally say, and on the menu, these are regional dishes. This is what you should have when you're here.
And you have
don't
to
make
ask
the mistake
people
of only eating the national things. You know, I mean, yes, still have them. Like, I still had a lot of patatas bravas, but don't miss out on having those local specialties too.
So good.
Another mistake I see a lot of tourists make when they come on vacation, I mean, it's vacation, you want to relax, but when you're coming to Europe for vacation, sleeping in is a mistake. Museums close maybe 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. And therefore, if you're sleeping in till noon and having lunch, and then you get to actually start seeing sites at 3 in the afternoon, you'll only have time to see one museum.
Why would you book a vacation to Europe to sleep the day away?
Go see some sites before lunch, have your nice lunch, see some stuff afterwards, and then go to bed early if you need the extra sleep instead of sleeping in and missing out on seeing things. And honestly, a lot of times when I film, I'm actually filming in the morning because it's a lot quieter. You can see the city without tourists running you over. And the thing is, if you're getting up early and you're walking around and exploring and seeing the sights, you start building up your hunger, right? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people forget that there's a lot of lunch specials here in Europe. If you're in Spain, Portugal, Germany, I mean, I've gone all over, and a lot of places will have a special menu for lunchtime where I can have a more traditional meal or a nice meal that might be more expensive at nighttime. And have at lunch, I can save some coin, okay? So save your money, have that big meal at lunch. Now, another mistake I see tourists make is kind of professing their family lineage when they're here in Europe.
So annoying.
For example, I know a lot of Irish Americans, when they go to Ireland, they say, I'm Irish, my great Grumpy Grump came over in 1785, and my great Grumpy Grump came over in 1851, and they're so proud, like, I am Irish. Or people come here, oh, my family is Portuguese. What you have to realize is, yes, that's important to you as an American coming here or a Canadian, but for the Irish, dude, you weren't born here. You didn't grow up here. You're not Irish. The Portuguese, were you born here? Did you grow up here? Do you have the saudades of the homeland? No. Then you're not really one of us. And that's one thing that I've seen like really hurt some kind of tourist feelings when they feel like, hey, my family's from Italy, you know, my family's from Spain, and they're like, that's nice, and it doesn't mean as much to the locals here as it does to the tourists that come here. And an expensive mistake I see tourists make is when they come to Europe, they don't get a data plan or an international phone plan when they come here, and then they get an insane, horrible bill from their phone company because they've been traveling all over Europe. So please don't forget to get that. Don't make the mistake of not having that plan, okay? And make sure you check all the countries you're going to go to, because sometimes all the
They're not
countries are
available
included,
everywhere.
or sometimes, oh no, one small country isn't, and you could get
Yeah.
nailed that way. All right, so let's go to another part of Europe to talk about some other of the little mistakes that we see tourists make when they come here to Europe. Now we're here in Nafplio, Greece, and my next mistake I see
my
tourists
God,
make
everything's so
is when they're
cool.
booking accommodation here in Europe, they only book based on price. You're like, oh, that's a cheap place to stay.
No,
we'll
you
go
have to
there.
look
Like I see
location.
tourists going to Rome, and they'll literally stay on the outskirts of Rome because it's 30% less than staying in the city. And I got to tell you, when you're
It
wasting
is.
30 minutes or 45
Yeah,
minutes
it's
on
more
public
expensive
transportation
long-term.
going in and going out to the center, or if you miss a connection, you got to take a taxi for 30 or 40 minutes.
It's more
Are you
expensive.
really saving money, and are you really saving time? So I think it's really important for you to balance the price and location of
Yeah.
accommodation when you do come here, because if you can stay in the historic part and enjoy the entire time you're here versus having to spend hours in transportation going back and forth, that might be a mistake you want to look into.
Yeah, you're maybe saving
Now,
on,
another
like,
mistake I see tourists
transportation
make
if
is they
you're
don't
walking.
kind of brush up on the geography, history, culture, and language of the country they're going to visit. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a completely fluent
No, but you
person
should
in
have an
Greek when you come
idea.
here, or know the intricacies of Greek history when you're here. But just having a rough idea of the historic background of the country you're going to,
It's a
the
good idea.
geography of the country, so you know where are the mountains, what are the good places you want to go,
Where are you
where are the
located?
main cities located? Because if you're coming to Nafplio and you tell people, oh, it's a Nafplio, they go, oh, did you go to Mycenae? Because it's literally like 13 kilometers outside of town. It's right there. And if you don't know, sometimes
Oh.
you miss out. And by understanding a bit better the culture, the language, the people, it can
A few
really
basic
help. Because
words
honestly,
always helps.
an efharisto or a parakalo, a thank you or you're welcome, goes a long way here
Is
in
that
Greece to
Greek?
get a few extra ouzos on the table. And
Oh
it
my
helps
God, I
you
can't
understand
put the
culture
food.
better
Everything looks
and helps get
delicious.
more out of your visit, because then you kind of understand how things are. Now, another mistake I see tourists make when they travel is they don't find out about local festivals. Now, yes, there are the world famous ones like Oktoberfest
Oktoberfest.
and the running of the bulls in Pamplona. And you have those things that people know about.
That's awful.
But local festivals. We were in Malta during their festas when their parties were going on with the fireworks and the streets all done up. And it's a really fun time. Go to the Festas Populares, the Saints festivals in Portugal in June. I mean, you have all these festivals going to the Christmas markets in
Christmas
Germany and
markets.
Austria
Yes.
at Christmas time. I mean, there's so many great festivals that sometimes people miss out because they just don't know. We were in Cordoba and I took students there, and part of it was because it was the week that the Cordoba Feria, the fair, was going on. So everyone's dressed up in the fancy clothes and the parties
Yes.
are going on. And
It's
it's a
very
really
nice.
great thing, but you don't want to miss out on that, because those are one of those times when you get to see a lot of like cultural,
Like culture, yeah.
dances, like cultural events, cultural clothing, folk
Food,
stuff. I mean, it's really a
clothes,
cool
yeah.
thing to see. So make sure you don't miss out on some of those. And if you hear that, oh, there's a
are those
festival going on in the
experiences.
village down the way, hey, you know what? We need to go to Tolo and go to the festival that's nearby. Now, another mistake I see tourists make is they forget that here in Europe, a lot of times you got to pay for some of the extras. You want a bag to put your
because it's not
groceries in? You're probably going to pay for
complimentary.
that. You want ketchup with your fries, or maybe more than one packet?
Oh my God,
you're gonna
that's
probably have to
that's
pay for
okay.
that. And I've seen people get upset. Like I've seen people in Prague go over the counter because they were so mad that they didn't get free ketchup. Look, the little extras here, don't make the mistake of thinking it's included.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the bread on the table, the cheese on the table, the bags at the store, just realize that sometimes you got to pay for those little things. Like sometimes you got to pay.
I have to say, I think it depends. Like, there are some things that make sense, like food on your table, but I do draw the line, and actually like bags as well, because I think you should like bring your own tote bag or your own like little bag. I do draw the line at like, I don't know, like extra like condiments. I don't think you should get charged like extra for condiments, because they like, especially with fries. Like if you want extra cheese or something like that, I think I'm okay with it. But I think there's a little bit of a line, but I understand everyone does it different. That's just like my personal opinion.
Pay for the toilets in certain spots, right? So do be aware of that, and don't make the mistake of thinking everything's free or everything should happen just because I think it should. You
No,
need to be aware.
everyone does it
And another
different,
mistake that I see really disappointing travelers when they travel in Europe is not knowing the kind of schedules and the timing
I
for
hate the
food,
shops,
restaurants, accommodation, museums and sites. Because some places, oh yeah, the sites are open from 9 to 5. Other places it's 8:32. Some places it's only open in the evening time.
Yeah,
And you
some
want to make
places close
sure
early.
you're doing your research beforehand to know
What is that
when
mountain?
is that
Looks very
museum going to be open? When is that site open? Is there days when it's open at night? What are the days they're closed? Because a lot of places, I've talked about this before, they're
Museums
closed on
open,
Mondays.
closed, yeah.
Well, some places they're closed on different days, or some places it's free. So make sure wherever you want to go, before you come, check to make sure you know the opening hours and opening days, so you don't get someplace and go, yes, I'm here to see the Louvre, and I only have Tuesday here in Paris, and the Louvre
No.
is closed on Tuesday. So now we're here in
they
Stockholm,
closed it
Sweden,
one
and
day.
another kind of mistake I see Americans make when they come
What a
to Europe
difference,
is
so
their
cool.
kind of over-reliance on Google Maps, or their over-reliance on trusting that Google Maps is correct. Look, I can't tell you how many times I've had, the walk from the train station to the hotel is 8 minutes. But when I
Not
actually do
always.
it, it's 15. Because it's like Google Maps are made for flat surfaces slightly downhill. When you come to Europe, you've got cobblestones, you've got hills, you've got all kinds of other stuff. So it always takes longer to walk anywhere. Like, if it says 8 minutes, put like 12 or 15 down. Give yourself an idea.
It always takes you longer.
Same thing with driving, because it literally calculates a lot of times, it seems at least, like, it's speed limit and distance, so you're there. Like in the US, if somebody's 60 miles away, it's going to be just under 60 minutes. I'll be there in an hour.
No.
Here, literally in parts of Europe, it may be only like, it's 5 miles away, but it'll take you 20 minutes. But the Google Maps will say something else. So just be aware of that. Give yourself a little bit of
you
extra
shouldn't trust
time,
it.
okay? And I think another thing,
like the maps
a mistake
themselves.
Americans make
Yeah.
is they I don't want to come to Europe because it's not safe. I've heard about these pickpocket things. I'm like, look, if you're from the U.S., there's muggings there. There's carjackings there. We
everywhere.
don't have that here in Europe. It's a super safe place. Like, you'll see little kids going on public transportation to go to school every day. No big deal, okay?
That's
so
actually
don't be
very
scared
true.
to come here. Obviously, use your common sense. Like, don't leave stuff in your rental car and don't leave your
Don't
stuff
leave
out.
your
Use the
Rolex.
safe. Normal safety ideas, you want to make sure you do that here. But overall, you feel so much safer when you're in Europe. Whether you're in dangerous Eastern Europe, which I just joke about now with some of these things.
Is it dangerous?
Or even other
What?
places like Paris. Yeah, pickpockets are there. But
I think
honestly,
there's more
thinking that it's going to be
pickpocketers in,
unsafe
like,
coming
popular
here and you should
areas.
stay home. No, don't let that stop you from coming to
Yeah,
Europe.
absolutely
Now, another
not.
thing I think we need to talk about, and this is one that's going to probably break your heart or
Oh my God,
break
what?
your perception
scared.
of your grandma's cooking, and that is thinking you know what the food is really supposed to be like. Now, don't get me wrong, if you go to your local IKEA, or IKEA as we say in the US, their Swedish
Is it
meatballs,
IKEA? That's how it's
they're pretty
pronounced.
spot on with the lingonberries and the mashed potatoes. That's legit stuff. But grandma, who got the recipe from the old country, her spaghetti and meatballs. You don't have spaghetti and meatballs in Italy.
In Italy, they don't
Spaghetti
have
is one
that.
plate, meatballs are another plate. It's not really a thing.
That's
when
an
you go,
American
you start
thing.
to see, wait, the perceptions and stereotypes and food stereotypes and ideas I had about these countries
It's totally
are
different.
different when I get there. So don't be upset when the grandma spätzle that you had back home in the U.S.
It's not the
is
same
different
as the
than
one you have
spätzle
there.
noodles you have in Germany. So be
Yeah, it's
open
true.
to some new food, even if it's old favorites you already know about. And when you're going out to
Yeah.
eat, another problem you might notice or a mistake people make is they're never sure if it's cash or card. I think that's a mistake. People don't check beforehand. What do I need to have when I'm there? Because not every country uses the euro. I'm here in Sweden, and it's the Swedish krona. You have the Swedish crown. They have that.
They
You
don't
have
use
the pound
euros
when you go to England, But then you have the euro in Germany, and you have the euro when
Okay.
you're in Lithuania, and you have the euro when you're in Portugal. But the thing is, it's not just making sure you know which money to have.
Yeah, obviously,
it's also,
good idea.
is it a cash or credit card place? Like here in Sweden, I've been here for a while. I didn't take out any money because you literally pay with your card everywhere. There's places
Yeah.
where they don't even take
Love that.
cash,
I
right?
hate
So
carrying cash.
you want to make sure you know the kind of money situation where you're going to go, because that's where people have mistakes. They're like, oh, you mean my American Express doesn't work here? No, it doesn't. Visa, MasterCard, or sometimes just cash. And speaking of the cash thing, I
You're like,
think
"How am I
another
gonna
mistake
pay?"
I hear a lot, and this is what people tell me why they don't go to Europe, is they make the mistake of thinking going to Europe is really a lot more expensive than just staying in the U.S. Well, I'm not going to lie to you.
I
What
don't
scares
even
people
know.
off is the flight of a plane ticket to Europe. And yes, getting to Europe, if you come in the
It's
summer,
expensive.
it is more expensive than flying to
Yeah.
Orlando or LA or New York. However, I will tell you this right now. We have been coming to Europe for decades, and we make the money up by staying at hotels here, because hotels and restaurants
Are
I
cheaper?
find are a lot cheaper to really enjoy life here in Europe than it is in the U.S. For example, if I go out to a decent restaurant here, I'm paying the same almost as what I'm paying like at a Chili's or something, and I'm getting way higher quality food.
Yeah,
I'm not
of
trying to
course.
knock Chili's. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Chili's. Still Chili's.
But what really gets it, I think, is the accommodation. Whereas, like, if I want to get a basic, hotel in New York, $200, $300, $400 just
yeah,
for like
but New York-
POS hotel
New
room.
York's out
Whereas
there.
in Europe, you'd
New
be getting
York's
an outstanding
expensive.
place. Like, literally, when we come, we'll go for 2 or 3 weeks, and the money we save in accommodation pays for the boys' plane tickets and saves us money that actually it's better for me economically for my business to come filming in Europe than it is for me to travel around the US. So don't
Wow.
let the fear of Europe is so expensive get to you. And the thing is, there's parts of Europe that are expensive, you know, Norway, Switzerland, coming to Stockholm, but
England,
if you leave the
think.
capital, prices drop a lot. It's like if you compare New York City prices to the rest of the U.S., the prices
It's
drop
not
quite a
the
bit,
same.
right? So you kind of
Yeah.
think about that. Another mistake Americans make when they come to Europe is thinking you can meet people at luggage claim. Look, when they're in the U.S., you actually have the luggage carousels are out in the open. Anybody can meet you
Yeah.
there. Here in
No,
Europe, it's
it
actually
depends on the
behind
airport.
security, so you have to get your bags and
It's
then
the last
go
thing that you
outside.
do.
So you won't meet your
Yeah.
family right here. You'll
No.
meet them outside. And to finish off, we're back here in Greece. We're actually in Hania on Crete, and I think another mistake I see tourists make when they come
wanna
to
go
Europe is
there.
they really think that the magic fanny pack is going to save them. You know the magic
That's
fanny
like
pack.
for the-
It's
for
that
the tourist.
feeling you feel when you go on vacation thinking nothing can possibly go wrong. It is safe everywhere I go. Nothing can possibly happen to me if I walk out in the middle of the street to take a picture.
No,
Look,
I
you
mean-
still have to be, you know, smart and be aware of your
Careful.
surroundings when you travel. And I see people that get really upset and kind of give up on their vacation because something bad happens. It does happen. People do get pickpocketed. You do get robbed.
Yeah, but you can get-
do get
you
sick.
can
do
get
twisted
robbed in the
ankle.
United
These are all
States
things
as
that happen
well.
to us, and we keep on traveling. Don't let those things kind of get in your way, but also don't think things don't happen. Right? And I think that's one of those things people think is that I'm protected because my magic fanny pack, my magic traveling bag will keep me safe. And that is not the case. You still have to use some common sense when you travel.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically talking to people that like to stand in the middle of the road and try to get pictures of the Eiffel Tower or something when traffic's going. Yeah, people get hit all the time. That's why traffic accidents are probably the #1 cause of death for travelers. So just be
Oh
aware.
my God. Okay, this is news to
Another
me.
mistake I see a lot of Americans make when they come here to Europe is they just try to see everything. Like, I want to see 20 countries in 3 days.
No, you
I mean, it's
can't,
not
of course.
that extreme, but it is something you need to realize is that, look, when you're traveling around, do you really want to spend most of your vacation time actually on a train or in an airport or on a plane?
Yeah,
or
you're
you
not
want to be
gonna enjoy
exploring,
it.
seeing beautiful places like Hainan,
this is
and going to
beautiful.
eat the fantastic food and seeing the beautiful museums and laying on the beaches?
this looks
Or
so
do we want to
good.
go and, oh, we got another early flight to get to another island. We got another flight to get to another city.
Yeah, you're not gonna
You wanna
enjoy
think about
yourself.
that so you can enjoy it. Now, there's nothing wrong with seeing a lot of places. We actually have a video on how to see a lot of places very efficiently. But honestly, if you're trying to do too much, it burns you out, and then you don't really get to enjoy the culture.
It's
as
not
much.
like you need a vacation
So
after your
have that in
vacation.
mind when you're kind of planning out your trip. Another slight mistake tourists make when they do travel in Europe is not realizing the driving etiquette is in different places. For example, here in Greece, the shoulder
drive.
is like a third lane. Passing? Sure, whenever. Just move over if someone's coming around you. Oh, on the
they're
autobahn,
crazy,
yeah, there's
okay.
no speed limit. And if you think you're driving fast,
Okay.
there's somebody coming up behind you in a BMW or Mercedes going
And it's
even
gonna go
faster,
faster.
so you don't park in the left lane. And you left
Okay.
lane drivers back in the U.S. that come to Europe, do not do that here because you can get a ticket for it. And you need to realize there are those differences, and so they make those mistakes like, hey, there's no turns on red here, and you might get a ticket. And if you think the ticket people, like the police that give out those tickets, won't find you, 'cause
No,
you're
they'll
a
find
rental
you.
car in another country,
They'll get
don't
your rental
worry.
car company.
They'll find you, and
The
they'll
rental
get
company
their
will
money
find
from
you.
you. Don't you worry about that, okay?
Absolutely, yes.
And
No
then
doubt in my
I want
mind.
to say this. This is a mistake I see a lot of tourists make, and that is they just buy a lot of cheap, crappy souvenirs
Oh, but
whether
look
for
about
themselves
it.
or for their friends to give back when they go home, and that's a mistake. Because why are you buying
makes me
10,
sad.
5-euro keychains when you can buy yourself one, like, 25-euro painting from a local artist, or get yourself
Well,
a
okay,
cool
that's-
shirt that's
I
something
know,
you
that's
wear
nice.
more
Yeah.
often than just one time. Because when you get people cheap souvenirs, guess what? They say thank you, and then they throw it away after a week or two. What do you, I mean, how many of you still keep all your snow globes from years ago, or all the little souvenir stuff? No, you end up
I do.
throwing it away, or you feel bad throwing it away.
No.
Better thing to do: send people postcards when you're traveling, because it shows you're thinking of them, and then they get a stamp from
That's
another country.
nice.
Oh, that's kind of cool. They thought of me. It's something they might keep, but if they throw it away, you're only out like €2 instead of 5, 10, 25 euros for getting some kind of crappy souvenir. All right.
Well, but if you like the
I
souvenir
hope this
and you
helps
think
know
someone
some of
would
the
like
mistakes that
it,
tourists
get
make when
them
they come
for
to
them.
Europe. What other mistakes that you see tourists make? Please let us know in the comments below so everybody can be better travelers when they come here to Europe. Also, I gotta say, we have a video on the don'ts of visiting Europe that kind of complements this. Has a little bit more serious tone to it to help you have a better time traveling no matter where you are. From Finland to here in Greece to England to wherever. Enjoy your travels, my friends. Bye from here in Hania, Crete, in Greece.
Okay, I have to say, like, to begin with, like, all that video, like, was incredible. Like, he was such an incredible places. I think he showed a lot of Greece, which it's a country I don't really know much about. and I'm seeing it and I'm like, oh my god, I want to go there right now. It's so incredibly gorgeous. Like Crete, it looked incredible, but also like the road where apparently everyone goes a little crazy. Like the road was gorgeous. Everything looks so pretty. Not that the other places are not very beautiful, but I think Greece is a little bit of like an unexplored country. I don't know, maybe for me, but it looks gorgeous and I want to go there. But about the things that he said, I do think that he had like some pretty sound advice. Some things are a little bit like, I can't believe that people like, people still do that these days? I don't know, it's crazy. For instance, like the thing I mentioned about like the food, you know, like it's, you're not gonna expect things to be like free, right? Like, are people expecting free things? I don't know, that's crazy to me. I think maybe it's because, maybe it's an US thing about like people Americans are maybe like more used to things being, oh, it's free because it's like they give you like free things. Like there are some things that maybe it's because, you know, it's included maybe like the customer service or the customer experience. And you think like, oh, it's complimentary. Like everything, like when you're at a hotel, which I know that that's usually not the case, that people grab like the robes and I don't know, the slippers and like they take it home because they think like, oh, you know, it's for me. It's like, well, no, not really, but you know, it's maybe more of that culture. And I can see like white people are like so upset about the whole thing of like, you're charging me extra for like this little thing. Is like, I mean, I would, that's what I would expect. I don't know, you should always ask, which is always a good idea, because unless that if you have like a very tight budget, definitely ask. I think you should definitely just like not ask unless that you're just like, I don't care, you know, you have a lot of money, it's whatever. So it's like, okay, well, if that's your case, and great, more power to you. And maybe that's the only key scenario where you're like, I'm not really asking if this is like, hey, is this like, do I have to pay for this? Like how much this is? I think don't be afraid of like asking people. I love all that food. Like everything looks so good. Now I'm hungry. I want everything. Like everything looked incredible. I do think it's funny that there are like several things that he mentioned about like the food situation. It's like, you know, I love the idea. Yes, you should definitely go regional. I think that maybe you have an idea, and maybe that ties a little bit with the whole, oh, but I thought, you know, again, like to put like the meatball, the spaghetti and meatballs, like I think that's such a, you know, people, I think, not everyone, but I think a lot of people have the misconception, you know, especially like people in the United States, they have the misconception of like, oh, what's like the most Italian meal that you can imagine? It's like, oh, meatballs, you know, spaghetti and meatballs. It's like, they don't really eat that in Italy. Like that's an American invention. Like I think probably were Italian Americans that actually invented that at some point when they sort of like migrated there. But that's not, you know, that's not a thing that in Italy like people eat. So it is more of an American, like Italian, an American Italian like, you know, situation. And you shouldn't like expect to find that over there. They have other types of food. And I think it could be a little bit of a cultural shock once you get there and you realize, wow, you know, things are not, you know, they're not really like what I think it's that kind of food, because in there they do it differently. I'm putting the example of Italy because I think it's one of the most like known examples, and I think most like probably knowns because everyone gets, you know, everyone has Italian food, everyone has had it at some point in their lives, and it's like one of the most like popular sort of like foods. Even like pizza, for instance, like you think, oh, you know, pizza, and in Italy pizza is like very different from I think what you probably expect. And again, like the pasta situation, it's very different. Like a lot of things are very like, oh, okay, you need like an adjustment period of like, okay, things are different. Because again, you know those dishes because of the people that migrated and traveled there and settled there. They made some changes, and that's what you know. But those are like the originals of like people that never left. They just like they do it differently. And I think that's again, it's a common misconception. It doesn't really only happen in Europe. I think with Asia, like I think Chinese food, like we like in the West know it as Chinese food, like also it's like very different from what the actual Chinese actually eat. And it happens, like again, it's a normal thing, but you have to be aware of like, no, do not go there like expecting things that you maybe have at home. And that ties with what he said of like, oh, you know, but my grandma doesn't really have it like that. It's like, well, she didn't like prepare it that way. It's like, yes, of course, it's different because again, she traveled there. Like she had an older recipe, and again, maybe she had to make do with what she got, you know, where she got. And, you know, the recipes, like they change because changes happen. Recipes, you know, get adapted. And of course they get lost in time, or they get changed, you know, again, because it's not something that happened like 3 years ago. It's something that happened like 60, 70, even 100 years ago. So it is kind of funny that he's like, do not go there expecting everything to taste the same, because it will not. Even if you're compared to like family recipes, like it is very different. And I think you have to have like the mindset of like, oh yeah. And of course that leads me to the whole of like, oh, I'm Polish American, I'm Polish. Like people you would go, you know, and again, I think that's a very like American thing. Specifically, because I don't really get, well, some other countries do it, but mostly it's just like guess the nationality of them, say like, I'm Polish, I'm Irish, I'm German. It's like, no, you're not, you're American. Like you're not, you maybe have some, oh, my family was from there, but you're not from there. Do not get it, you know, people maybe think that, oh, you know, I'm gonna get treated like special. Yeah, they're gonna be treating me like, oh wow, you know, they're gonna be welcoming with open arms. It's like they're not gonna be, I'm not saying that they're gonna be rude about it, but I'm just saying like they're not, you know, you're not expecting to find like, oh hey cousin, like no, that's not gonna happen. Like a lot of people, you know, Europe is just like everyone has family from Europe, because that's just, you know, well, not everyone, but you know, in America, like everyone has, you know, well, most people have, you know, family that came from there. So it is, you know, you're not like special somehow. It's just like, that's just the norm. And do not expect people in Europe to be like, oh wow, incredible. It's just like, okay, well, what do you want me to do about it? Like, is this your first time traveling here? And you're gonna be like, yes. And do you know the language? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Chances probably are you don't really know the language, so you just probably just know a few words. And of course they get offended, because it's like, no, do not go around saying, you know, I'm Portuguese, I'm Spanish, whatever, if you don't really are from that country. It's just like, no, my family was from there. You can say, oh, like my great grandma, whatever. It's like, oh, okay, that can be like a welcoming, like, oh, well, good, but you don't really like, they don't really care. And maybe you shouldn't like expect them to care, because again, it's a very like common thing. So it's not like you're not gonna get some sort of like special treatment, or again, you're gonna be like, oh, welcome back to the land. It's like, no, it doesn't. Nobody cares over there about those things. And I think that's sort of like a very American thing to say, of like, oh, you know, I'm Russian. It's like, you're not. You're actually from the United States. You don't even speak Russian. So it is kind of like a funny thing. And I do agree that it's like, you're gonna be like, come on, like, get out of here. The whole about like the Google Maps situation, I have to say, I didn't really, because I think I'm very reliable. Like, I think they're very reliable. It's like, you know, Google Maps is very, you know, it's very, and I think it works like worldwide, I think, in my experience. And it was like a little shocking to me, but it's like, oh yeah, it means like not the actual maps, but just, you know, the travel times, which I think, yes, do not rely on any app that tells you that. I think it's, you know, it depends on a lot of factors. So I wouldn't like trust them that much, but it's like for 1 minute I was scared. I was like, oh no, like the whole, like, the maps are different in Europe. Like they're not like drawn. I don't know. They're not updated in the app. I know, but I like that he mentioned it, because it's like, yes, you're totally right. The last thing I want to say is like, of course you should definitely, a part of like, going to, especially like with this example of like Europe, you know, you have like so many countries. Of course you want to go visit. There's like so many incredible things to do. Like he said, like you should definitely plan, you know, in advance of like, hey, I want to maybe tackle like this country, or maybe like 2 or 3 countries in my visit. I think it's a place that you should definitely go. If you can, you should definitely go there a bunch of times, because again, it's a lot of countries, a lot of cities, and it's not just you're gonna expect to, you know, I'm gonna, you know, travel all over Europe in like a week. It's like, no, of course you can't, because like he said, it's like the idea is for you to actually like, you know, actually visit the country. It's not just like, hey, I'm taking a picture here and then I'm leaving, I'm skedaddling out of there. It's like, no, the idea, of course, is for you to actually like experience the country and, you know, go and sightsee and, I don't know, eat the food, talk with the locals. I don't know, like you actually get to experience and travel. So on one hand, I do agree, although I know not everyone's lucky enough to actually like visit Europe once in their lives, and even like several times. I know he said like apparently like it's cheaper than you think, which I think, well, you know, he makes a really good point. I don't know how verifiable that information is, but I do like that advice of like, actually you may think like it's more expensive because of like the plane ticket situation is going to scare you like at first glimpse. But, you know, then when you actually get around to like doing the math and maybe like, you know, transportation, accommodation, whatever, like all the food, it's like, it's actually going to be maybe around the same. I don't know if it's cheaper, but maybe it's around the same of like a vacation in the United States. So it is a good thing of like, do not get discouraged because of like the money situation. I do like that. But I do have to say that the whole about like, oh, I'm going to Europe to like rest, and I'm gonna sleep until like until noon because it's my vacation and I want to rest. It's like, if that's the type of vacation that I think you're looking for or that you want to, I would tell you, like, do not go to Europe. I think you have to be very aware of the kind of vacation and the kind of like traveling that you're doing. And if you're going to Europe, the idea, like he said, is like for you to actually go to places. It's not like, well, you're back from Europe. What did you do? It's like, I don't know. I just left. It's like, well, why would you go to Europe and spend all that money and time for you to do something that you can maybe have done like in other places that are maybe like closer to where you live? Like, I think it's a waste of like money, resources, and time. I think I'm not alone in this, I would venture to say, because again, the idea is for you to actually go to places. I think it's such a like shame. Maybe you can like sleep in one day because you're like, wow, no, I'm so tired. I did a lot of walking yesterday. I don't know. I traveled. I don't know. But it's not like a thing of like, oh, I'm doing it like every single day of my stay here. I'm just sleeping in. Like, no, the idea is for you to actually go to places and you walk, or I don't know, plan things. Because otherwise, maybe go to a beach and maybe book a vacation to other countries or maybe to another city, or you can just like, I don't know, book a beach vacation. I think those, or maybe like a mountain vacation where you can just like, rest, and maybe, I can stay around and just, sleep until noon, and I can read, or I can just like bed rot in my bed all day. Like, I get it. But if you're going to Europe, why would you go there just to sleep? It's like, no. And that goes along with the whole like planning in advance of like, well, do your little research and see like what kind of places I want to visit, what kind of places look nice. Also, like both in actual like cities and actual like touristy locations, so maybe just like historical places that you want to check out, museums or buildings or churches, I don't know, or just like towns in general. Of course, do your research, see, do I have to book it in advance? Like, what's the best like time of the year to go? And that's the best way, obviously, you can just, actually say, you know what, I actually loved my vacation, and I had, a great time there. And I actually like took advantage of everything, and I got to see like everything I wanted to see. So I think it does definitely take a little planning in advance, but I think at the end of the day, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think that's definitely like the actual, like the actual, I don't know, like the best way to visit Europe. I would say like every vacation should be like that, but especially Europe. And I know that, yes, Europe is not a monolith, and that's why you should actually, again, do your research and see like what kind of countries do I actually want to visit, or what cities do I want to like, do they call to me? And I love also like the fact of like visiting maybe like less known places, because again, you can find so many like incredible things in like less known places that I love that advice. But everything that he said, I'm like, good advice, I'm with him. I agree with almost everything, and I think maybe everyone should follow him. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.